guys, we are here with an old friend. Say hello, old friend.
Hey, it's Satellite. How's everyone?
So, obviously, guys, for the old timers of the channel, they have probably realised Satellite was the guy that we used to do the live show with. Obviously, we put the live show on hold because my internet at the time was crappy and we just never really started it up again. But yeah, we used to do a 1 hour show that went for 2.5 hours, 3 hours sometimes.
Gee, yeah, those were the days, weren't they?
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, well, the reason he's here is because we actually want to talk about the Belt and Road Initiative, and Satellite is our expert on this sort of stuff. Um, he knows this. He knows more about this than I ever possibly could, and the reason why we want to talk about this is because this actually relates to what is happening in Victoria at the moment. Some of you may know Victoria has signed up for the Belt and Road Initiative. And they've also signed up for this. You actually mentioned it earlier as well. It's
Oh,
the Strong Cities.
Soros's Open Cities Foundation, yeah.
Yeah, Strong Cities is the actual
Oh,
name of it.
sorry, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, it's the Open Foundation and it's the Strong Cities Initiative. There you go.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So at the end of the day, it's all relating to that, and this is probably my guess is this is why we're having such a crackdown when it comes to the Melbourne police force. So we want to talk about that. We want to talk about what these initiatives are, and just have a basic chat about it because I haven't seen my mate for a while, and we just literally sat here for like an hour having a chat, just chin wagging before we even started the show. So what? What is the Built a Road initiative, and how does that affect us?
From what I mean, if I was gonna do Belt and Road in a nutshell,
Hmm.
it's basically the aggressive expansion worldwide of Chinese economy.
Right.
Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, so China
Yeah,
has proposed a Belt and Road initiative in
yeah.
2013 to improve connectivity and cooperation on a transcontinent scale.
Yep. It's the local economy of China
Hmm.
going global, and
Yes.
the Belt and Road. It's if you picture it in your head, it's literally like because the language is quite literal. The Chinese language can be very literal.
Mm.
The translation Belt and Road, meaning that it's the mass transportation. Trucks, trains, etc. A belt probably they're not literally going to be running transport belts across the ocean, but you
They,
sort of picture it as mass transportation. So they're going into China. Part of this is what they're doing in China, where they're going in there. They're doing a lot of expansion and investment into African industry, mining, and so on. Cobalt is one of their big things that they're doing there.
Mhm.
They and then they bring the ore back to China, process it, and it goes into batteries mostly.
Yeah. So I have a map on the screen here, the image, and it looks like there's something going out of China over to Dustin B, and then it goes to Athens, Moscow, and then to Rotterdam.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah, it's quite expensive. I'm actually quite surprised that Australia is not in that,
hmm,
but it does make sense. So we were on it. I think at some point we were part of the plan, but I guess since Australia's politics has gone quite in the other direction,
hmm,
it does leave a few questions that even I can't answer about Victoria because they signed on to it,
yeah,
but then everything's gone to hell with Chinese Australian relations means that Victoria's in a sticky situation where it's got a dual.
allegiance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I've also heard. So one thing I also heard about this Belt and Road initiative is that it's actually bankrupting smaller countries, third world countries.
Yeah, a
Um,
lot of a lot of large investment does that.
yeah,
You could say that it's part of how they take over countries, right? The
yeah.
World Economic Forum is quite into that.
Hmm.
Um, the IMF is actually quite well known for handing over loans. Well, let's back up a bit. The IMF comes in after the first part, which is to go in, start a revolution. Um, they call it a color revolution. That's it. And once you start the so-called color revolution, it's got nothing to do with colors. It's just called that. I think it's a lost in translation thing. And once that happens, usually causes mass government destabilization. It brings down the economy. The IMF comes in, offers loans, and they also install a new leader, a new president or something, which then leads to them not being able to pay that loan, which part of the contract is then they can take over the country.
Yeah,
I guess China's learnt a lot from the Americans, I would say.
ouch. So one thing I heard is so here China's Belt and Road plan will drive Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal towards bankruptcy. So they're saying China's One Belt One Road plan will drive the following countries I've just listed into bankruptcy. China is charging interest rates as high as 16% above for funding made available for OBOR projects like CPEC. Now, what I've heard, so India has registered its concern about their project. So what they do is they basically go through, for example, and they say, well, hey, you need a shipping port. We'll build the shipping port for you. And then it costs them like $50 million. And then you just simply pay them back, right? Now, what's happening is that these countries aren't able to pay back. So what China is then doing is China then turns around and says, hey, you spent $50 million, you're unable to pay it back. So we're going to take part of your country to pay back that loan. Hey, you got a nice shipping port that might be worth 30 million now. That's great, we'll take that. But we'll also go through and we'll take another $20 million out of other stuff as well. So that's the sort of thing they do. So it's also causing people to lose infrastructure in their countries because they're snapping up these infrastructure to pay back the loan that China lent them to build the shipping port because they needed a shipping port, sort of thing. So yeah, it's kind of sinister, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's hey, it's China. If you probably shouldn't have China controlling your finances or whatnot.
Same goes for previous iterations of this when it involves the UN and the IMF. Like,
Yeah.
it's very similar in how it works. Although China, I guess, is going in taking advantage of an already destabilized country, whereas what I described before was let's go in there, screw it up, and then take advantage. So, I suppose it's less sinister, but it's still sinister. God, I can't believe I just said that about China. Oh boy.
So they're saying that certain countries like Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal could be pushed into endless debt traps.
Yeah.
Countries.
But no, what doesn't make sense, part of it, what doesn't make sense is that, I mean, I don't know if we're getting ahead of ourselves, but like China itself is in a massive financial trouble. So
Yeah. Well, apparently, according to this, it's one expert has said that China is competing globally to make yen the alternative currency to the dollar.
They may succeed in that too, because they're. I mean, we'll probably cover this more extensive later, but there is some heavy issues with the US dollar and the and the debt that the US is in right now. So
yeah,
that could actually happen.
And obviously, look, it initiated this inflation. It did start under Trump. Trump was making the money machine.
Yes, yeah. Trump was no angel.
No. He was no demon, but he was no angel, right? He had good things, he had bad things. But at the end of the day, it's definitely progressed under Biden as well. The money machines are still going brr.
Oh yeah. They apparently, if you were to average things out, it's Well, I think it would be somewhere in the about a quarter to a half a billion a week.
Mm.
Is that like how much they've been printing as far as like the bills that are going through the Senate? Um, I suppose we could see $1 trillion a week being printed by next week or maybe the week after, but there's this whole October 15 thing.
Mm.
This is quite interesting.
So 40% of the US dollars were printed in the last 12 months.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, there's something interesting too. When you look at the money supply, the M1 is the one where it's the money supply minus the savings accounts.
Mm.
The M2 is all of it. But if you now look, the M1 and M2 match because this is insane.
Yeah.
They lifted all restrictions on savings accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I suppose you know about that. Maybe you
Yes.
covered it. I'm not. Yeah.
I haven't really talked about it much, but yeah, they've lifted how
Mm.
much money you can transfer between accounts.
There is no limit now.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
basically, I've actually spoken to Americans who they mentioned, yeah, you just go into your banking, you go to your savings account, and there's no message anymore telling you that there's any limits. You
Mm.
just transfer and off you go.
Yeah,
People think it's bizarre.
and at the end of the day, yeah, yeah, I'm no financial expert, but to me, if you started like getting everybody to transfer large amounts of money out of a bank and you wanted to crash a banking system, could be one way to do it.
Absolutely, yeah.
If
It
the
does sound like that's how you could do it.
if the bank
If there's no
started
restriction,
freaking
yeah.
yeah, if the bank started freaking out because they're having all this money transfer out and not enough going in, the banking system would collapse. Maybe I don't know. Like I say, I'm no financial expert, but to me,
No,
it's
you're on the right.
yeah,
You're on the money, no pun intended. Yeah.
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
and obviously, at the end of the day, obviously, and as for like people are going on about inflation, oh, it's just inflation. That covers the M1, I think it is, but that doesn't normally
Oh,
cover the M2. But when both
no,
the
I don't think. No, I don't think inflation is covered in the M1, M2. They're just money supply. They're
yeah,
just the amount of money.
normally
Um,
one just goes
yeah.
up. Normally the just one of them will go up. But the fact that both of them are going up, that's what's ringing alarm bells. Because people were trying to downplay this inflation. They're like, oh yeah, it happens from time to time, blah blah blah. And then the response for that is, okay, that's fine. That's the M1, but the M2 is also going up, and that's not accounted by that explanation. Or there's some sort of explanation where they were talking about the fact that both of them are raising is a bad sign because that's showing it's actual real inflation and not just stuff that's sort of just trying to work out in the wash or something like that too. So yeah, it's
Yeah, we were told we were told that the inflation was transitory and there's nothing to
that's
worry
it.
about.
That's it.
I'm
Yeah,
like, no, it's not transitory.
yeah, that's it. Transitory.
And
So the
we're starting to
M1,
see it. We're
the
starting to
M
see the inflation in Australia too.
yeah. So the M1 is when it's transitory, but because it's M1 and M2, that's not transitory. That's my understanding. Um,
Well, okay, okay. Look, when the so the M oh what was which one did I say it was? The M2 is the one that doesn't have the savings or no,
yeah,
was it the M1? Anyway, when they lifted all restrictions on the savings then became part of the money supply. So one of the graphs has a big jump that's not got nothing to do with money printing or inflation. It's just that that pool of money is now represented on both graphs.
yeah.
So there is that, but that doesn't then explain the rest of the jump, which is the mass money printing, the trillions of dollars that have been printed for a couple of years now.
I'm just trying to find a M1 and M2 list. Uh,
Well, while you're doing that, um, one of the things that we could also see is when it comes to the Belt and Road Initiative and Africa,
mhm.
it does appear that Africa is very much more content with having the Chinese there. I can't really ignore that. They do seem to be more happier with that than what was happening before.
Mm.
And it's probably because, I mean, they're just as exploitive as everyone else when it comes to the mining thing, but as far as them going there and investing, they're investing more, how to say, like the roads, rebuilding the train network, upgrading the ports, all those things. It seems to be doing a really good job for their economy, and they hire Africans quite a bit more than used to happen in the past.
Mm.
So we will probably see Africa being very much joined to the hip with China for a very long time if that's if the contentness continues, if the happiness continues. Yeah.
Well, at the end of the day, that would suit both China and Africa.
Absolutely. And I mean, and I suppose the other thing too is China doesn't care about the whole global warming thing. So, yeah, they're probably going to be more than happy to go, oh, you're going to build us some actual coal plants for a change?
Mm.
They're going to be, yay, power for Africa.
Mm.
Because up until now, they haven't been allowed to industrialize.
Yeah.
Which I've always found to be incredible. If there's anything racist about the global warming thing, it's definitely that.
Yeah.
That they don't allow them to have power.
Mm.
They keep them in the dark ages. I don't
Mm.
think China's going to be worried about that.
No.
Although coal supplies are, they've completely gone AWOL. So that might be an issue too. But I mean, if they open up some coal mines in Africa, I think that China and Africa are going to be very, very, very well off for a long time as far as power is concerned, which is very concerning for the rest of us. Because out here in our countries, we're not allowed to mine anything.
Well, Clive Palmer is actually trying to change that. He's actually trying to get approval to get $1 billion extra in stuff to actually mine extra than what we already can mine. So.
Oh, well, that's really good. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I mean, we only have one major coal power plant. We definitely need to revitalize and power up the old ones as well.
I would say things like thorium reactors are also something that we should probably look into too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yes. And mining we have some of the best uranium in the world. We should use it.
Yeah, well, obviously that's a conversation we'll get for another time for that about the submarines, but that's something I actually want to talk to someone about actually because the submarine deal seems like it's moving along. All right, so one topic per video we're going to stick to. All right, so as for that, okay, so the Belt and Road, how does that affect the Melbourne police? Why does the Belt and Road make the military or the Melbourne police act like a bunch of thugs? And this is where... Yep.
Well, I'm not actually 100% sure that that's actually Belt and Road. I think it's open cities.
Strong cities? Right.
Strong, sorry. It's strong cities. I think it's that because there was a story for a while back that Australia was, and it might have been just Victoria that did it, that they sent police over to Israel to train. Mm-hmm. They were going to do some training there. Mm-hmm. And you might be able to bring up the story while I'm talking to fact check me on that. And they would have then come back with that training, and then we would see the brutality, because the kind of training that they get there is related to the way that they treat their neighbours.
So, Israel to train Australian forces on security. It's SBS has covered it. So that is here. So Australian emergency services and border officials will be trained on security response from Israel teams who are experienced in terror prevention. Australian police, paramedics, firefighters and defence personnel will learn new methods of protecting buildings, carrying out surveillance, and using biometrics from Israel. The initiative will
Correct.
see
Yeah.
Australia emergency services and border officials travel to Israel to draw from the country's vast experience in keeping people safe in public areas. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Now,
So,
you might have found some specific sentences that I would probably focus on. Firstly, protecting buildings. Well, that has some relation with the way that you would um, kettle people. So a lot of what we've seen in Victoria is things we really haven't seen before in this country, and that's because here um, we will never really have such, civil unrest. But another thing too is that these are tactics that are not native to Australia. So the kettling is one of the things that they do. They use the area around them to create a boxing in effect, and we see that with the protests.
yeah.
The other one too is when people are trying to go to a shopping center, and there's actually a video that I've seen of this, is a whole lot of people trying to just go to the shops, but they're not allowed in because they are supposed to check in, and it will not let them check in without the vaccine passport green tick. Now, they had around 100 to 150 police protecting the building.
Yeah.
It was a large shopping center, and around 300 people were there trying to enter, and it got ugly. It turned into a riot with the cops. So yeah, the training covers that kind of thing. It's urban anti-terrorism
Yeah.
is one way I've seen it called. Another title I've seen is urban riot control.
So in this, it says Australian Federation of 6 states is to maintain territories with 3 tiers of government composing national, state, territory, and local. The national, state, and territory governments work closely together under a national framework approach to prevent and counter violent extremism, PVE and CVE. Former cooperation mechanisms include overcroaching national committee and working groups addresses particular PVE and CVE priorities, which enables sharing of information, resources, and experts. At the same time, our federal structure, blah, 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 right, so that's the national overview. Is they're talking about there is about preventing and counter violent extremism. I am guaranteeing you the Melbourne police is branding these protesters as violent extremists.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know we don't really have evidence to substantiate the claim, but I would say that they more than likely are using some kind of anti-terrorism legislation
Yep.
to legalize what they're doing.
Yeah. So as Victoria capital city, Melbourne is the fastest growing high city of over 4 million people. Greater Melbourne is sprawling, covering 31 separate multiplices. Right, but Greater Melbourne is also characterized by strong diversity within multiple cities. For example, Greater Dandenong is cities has been recognised as one of the world's most vibrant cities. Okay, but you're not telling me what they're. There's a lot of.
Well, if you want to, if you want to expand on it, I would just.
Sorry, hang on. Just
sorry.
I will say, guys. Yeah, sorry. I will say that this is the Stronger Cities website, so we're not really expecting them to mention on the Stronger Cities website about how they teach cops how to beat civilians. Just, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think there was some lag there as well.
Yeah.
One of the things that I would say, if you expand on that as well, that there's been 2 major legislations that have also been passed, which is the access, the Assistance and Access Bill, and also a more recent bill that was passed that allows the federal police, and I think it covers the intelligence police of the individual states as well, the ability to have a warrant to give them access to and impersonate and take control of social media accounts or any accounts online. To be honest, it could even be an account on like Whirlpool forum. So I don't know if you know about that.
Yeah, I've actually talked about that actually. Yeah, the infrastructure. I don't know if it's passed yet or if it was passing Parliament, but would allow the police force allowed to edit, delete, or impose or impersonate anybody's social media accounts.
Yeah, and that all ties in together with the rest of it too, which is them being able to access accounts, get information, track people online, all of that. And since the lockdowns forced us online, they can tie it all up into anti-terrorism warrants.
Hmm.
See the connections there? It's
Hmm.
quite chilling, isn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like at the end of the day, that, and I also found this. Has Australia's state of Victoria sold out to Soros backed Strong Cities network with privatised police? So we came across a website on Twitter, australianvoice.livejournalism.com. So in trying to understand why Australia and Melbourne and the state of Victoria in particular seem to be coming under heavy police state hand for a very small number of COVID cases, we recently published a piece by Robert Bridge, in which was positioned that it was poised that the state of Victoria has signed on to China's Belt and Road Initiative, the only Australian state to have done so. However, somehow the police state treatment of the citizens we're receiving was in this fact. Right. As Bridge says, joining the Belt and Road Initiative has put Victoria at odds with the Australian government in general, which has joined the Blue Dot Network, a Western bulwark against China's Belt and Road Initiative in the region. I didn't even know about that Blue Dot Network. Canada's famous constitutional lawyer has also made the important point that Australia and New Zealand do not have the Bill of Rights to protect their citizens against government abuse, which we know. So, yeah.
There's also something else about the infrastructure bill that I haven't been able to substantiate. I can't seem to find it, but I heard someone mention to me that the method that something in the bill allowed them to do something that they did recently, which was to shut down the networks. So on the weekends, they are shutting down the mobile phone towers, and they put them into 3G mode. And it's 3G mode with no data, so the Rev 99 is also fully disabled on the towers, and it's just phone calls and that's it. And I don't know if you've heard of that, but like on the weekends, there's no streams, there's nothing coming out from the area.
Yeah, because they've shut down the towers. So,
Yeah.
What is the Strong Cities Network? It's a privatisation of a police force governed by global NGOs, and Victoria is the only state in Australia to sign on.
What is it? What do you call it when you have a partnership between government and corporations?
Technocratic?
It's the definition of fascism.
Oh. I was going to say technocratic. Why do you think the police at Melbourne's rally are acting like goons? Were dressed in black and didn't have the Australian logo on their uniforms. That's what you were saying before.
Yeah, it looks like a predator head. No joke.
There's a photo of them there. When you go to the Strong Cities website, why do Strong Cities matter? 10 steps that can prevent counter-violent extremism. This, to me, is authoritarian. This is a way that they can shut down protesters. This is what this is all seeming like.
Yeah, it's all about
controlling your citizens.
Protest suppression. They have a lot of they actually have quite a lot of suppression equipment. You've probably seen the pepper spray or whatever that is.
Yeah.
It's not like any pepper spray I've seen before. It's like a thick yellow thing. It's like a goo. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And One of the weirdest things I've seen was one of the videos where the police sergeant was actually behind some young police, and he was, and he was saying swear words and things and egging on the cops to move forward and bash them up.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that one.
Probably did. Yeah.
Um,
Can't remember, but it probably
Now,
did.
one
Yeah.
of the other extensions about open cities also there is a tie-in with a global network.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not sure to what degree it can. I don't know. Okay, best thing I can probably say is I don't think it is the gateway to globalization, but I believe that it is to standardize laws across different nations. I think that's mainly where it's at. It's about standardizing the laws. Now, you could say that standardizing laws is very important for the beginnings of a one world government.
Hmm.
Like if you look at, say, an example would be like the European Union, which is to standardize all of these laws across all of the states, so that you can easily move between, state to state. The laws are standard across it, all that sort of thing. So
Hmm.
there's that as well. That's part of it.
Yeah, they're saying here that the SCN is an initiative in a London-based think tank, ISD. Their mission statement is to power suggestions to extremism and polarization. So I'm guessing is to shut down
Yeah.
extremism and polarization. Yeah.
Well, extremism is just a word for freedom-loving people. I mean, that's all
Yeah.
it is. Like when it comes to Belt and Road and uh, strong cities,
Hmm.
an interesting movie I suppose you could look at. Um, A Little Battle Angel?
Oh, I've heard of it. Yeah, haven't seen it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so one of the things that happens in the city, so people who've seen the movie would probably know where I'm going with this. The There's a big city up the top where all the elites live, and then down below is the factory.
Uh,
And the people down there are subject to a kind of it looks very much like feudalism, I suppose. And they have a special kind of police
hmm.
that they're called hunters, and they go around hunting anybody who does anything illegal. But it, it's not just illegals, but it's also to do with people who use who install equipment on their bodies, like things that like weapons and stuff that are also illegal. And I suppose what you could say is that they're extremists.
Hmm.
And so if you picture that society, then you can kind of understand what strong cities is. Another one could be Elysium, where they are living on that space station, and then down below, you just have all the serfs.
Yeah.
That's also another example of that as well, where they get all the resources up there, and down here we get nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or example for the new TV show lovers, um, if you go through and watch the show Foundation, it's similar too. You have the empire or the emperor that lives on top, and then all the servants are down. Anywhere from 50 to 100, 150 levels down. Um,
Yeah, and extremism, all it is they just tag extremism and terrorism onto anything that is literally anything that is against the system that they're living in.
yeah.
Um, Brave New World and 1984 are two books that describe this.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And
actually,
the
yeah.
author of
So
those
go on.
the author of those two books would probably be called extremist by now, by today's standards.
Oh, absolutely, of course, yeah.
Mm.
I actually had a really good joke I wrote earlier. I'll just find it here. uh, where did I put it? A brave new Fahrenheit 1984 for Vendetta.
Anybody hasn't seen V for Vendetta, go and watch that movie. It is going to end up being literally homework to find out how to survive and how to overthrow a government.
Read A Brave New World, or just Brave New World, 1984 by George Orwell. Check out the documentary Fahrenheit. What's the name of that? The full name?
Fahrenheit 9/11.
That's the one, yeah. And of course, watch the movie V for Vendetta.
Yeah.
Oh, and while you're at it, hit YouTube and bring up Black Mirror White Christmas, and also watch Black Mirror the TV show.
So now you all have homework to do for tomorrow's show.
Yes, I gave you all some homework.
But at the end of the day, yeah, it's V for Vendetta is one of my favourite movies. Actually, I love it. I love V for Vendetta. It's amazing.
Yeah, and the actual full true story of what V for Vendetta actually is
Guy
actually
Fawkes.
quite interesting. Yeah, the story of Guy Fawkes, and that's quite an interesting one. They find he tries to blow up the parliament with gunpowder.
Well, the
But the funny thing, it wasn't his idea. It was someone else's idea.
But here's the thing, right? Is if he hadn't gone back for the second lot, he probably would have succeeded. He thought because the gunpowder got wet, it was no longer useful. So he went back to buy more, and that's when they actually caught him. If he had just detonated the first lot.
No, I thought that was when they found out the plot. They stopped the original plot, where they couldn't blow up the parliament, and so then they stole more gunpowder from another place, and during the robbery, the gunpowder got wet.
No, I don't know. As far as I know, he had enough gunpowder to blow up the parliament. But
yeah, it was already under there. Yeah, it was underneath in a rented room. Yeah.
But it got wet, and he figured it was no good. So then he went back to buy more.
Oh, okay.
And that's when they caught him, because they're like, "Ha, you got gunpowder. What are you doing?" And apparently one of his assistants or whatever sold him out or whatever. But yeah, it's the whole story for the Guy Fawkes, who's the whole guy behind, it's actually quite interesting.
Yeah, it is. They were not happy with this the state of affairs politically, which was the whole thing of feudalism being, no, it might have been, was it feudalism? They're living under a king. Yeah, it was.
Whatever it is, yeah. But at the end of the day, it's homework, because we're all going to need to know how to do this, apparently.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously, I'm not advocating for violence, YouTube.
No, absolutely. Yeah, of course not.
No,
Absolutely not.
No. Peaceful.
And actually, let me just cover that just a little bit. There is a guy, Ricardo Bozzi, and he says, you have to win this battle without violence, because when we win against this is basically like Victorians, right? Victorians have to win the battle with such a high degree of morality that it is without question who is the bad guy.
Yeah.
And it plays into a theory that a lot of thought leaders have right now, and I don't want to name drop them all because YouTube algorithms, but basically everyone is saying this, that the elites are poking and prodding so much because they want people to rise up violently. They want that, so that it gives them the excuse to bring in the military to shut it all down, and then to claim that the world has fallen apart to such a degree that we have no choice but to bring in a one world government.
So this is what you and I have talked about for years. We were on a different Discord, and I don't want to go into too much detail here because, but at the end of the day, we're on a different Discord, and my argument to you was that if it ever got violent, that's what would happen. that these
Yeah.
that these groups would be made an example out of, and the New World Order or the elites, whoever you want to call it, would actually go through and use that as an excuse to bring in new sweeping powers to lock everybody down.
And they're so desperate for people to do violent things. You just look at how they try to play the narrative of what happened in the first month of the year. I won't say the month or day for algorithm purposes, but you probably know what I'm talking about. The thing that happened in the very first month of the year, and it was 3 plus 3 equals. So that event, they play that up to such insane degrees.
Oh yeah,
because they need a narrative of violence.
Yeah,
it's what they want.
Yeah, because without it, the Orange Man's no longer the bad guy.
Yeah, and not just that, but his voters.
Yeah,
which is basically half the country of the United States, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing that. And here in Australia, they're trying to do the same. If you even look at the tactics they use, they do things in a way that is so absurd to try to piss people off to go do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
It feels like this is dragging on because we're not rising up, which is kind of funny because we are supposed to be, being against what they're doing, peaceful protesting. That's what we should be doing, but it has to stay peaceful.
Yes.
It is, of course, very difficult when the police are,
firing
brutalizing.
Rubber, and firing rubber bullets at people and stuff. It can.
Yeah, chasing them through parks, shooting at them. I mean, oh my God. But you got to act like this is Jesus, I guess. Turn the other cheek in a way, because if you do go after the police and they get killed, if any cops get hurt, killed, etc., they're going to use it against us.
Oh yeah. And that's
the peaceful protest is working. I have to say, the peaceful protesting is working, because what just happened in New York with Americans protesting outside of all of these embassies, which was Ricardo Bossi's idea, and he said this on a very popular show. Now we're seeing all over the world, or not all over the world, but in many places, they're protesting outside of these embassies.
Yeah.
And this is how it works. You stay peaceful, you be good, and protest without violence, and look at all the political pressure they're getting. Now we've got 3 to 6 ministers of the government all quit. So it's working.
You gotta stay peaceful. Because I'm gonna actually post the link to this conversation in the Discords, in the Telegrams. You gotta stay peaceful, because at the end of the day, as soon as you lose that, it also turns the public against you as well.
We saw that with
Black Lives Matter.
Exactly. Yes.
Yep.
Political opinion tanked.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So we're probably going to wrap it up here for this conversation, because basically that's the gist of what is happening, is the fact that you have this Belt and Road Initiative, Strong Cities Initiative. The police have been trained in these counter-terrorism tactics. And they're basically going through and labeling the protesters as extremists. So therefore they can then go through and use these tactics against them. And yes, the Victorian police force is privatised. They do have that uniform, and they have that skull, I think it is, or whatever it is, that logo on their uniform. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's I've got a photo on the screen for the police force. But yeah, that's why you don't see them with a Australian police force or anything written on them anymore. It's
their uniforms are very, very different to a typical Australian police officer. The helmets with that thing on the back that covers the neck.
Yeah.
The arm pads, the torso equipment. It's all just not normal.
No, I've actually got a photo of 2 police officers on the screen here, and you can see it. It's right kit.
Now, I might just mention one little thing though.
Sure.
New South Wales has something going on with it too, because there's a video of a guy in a vest, a high vis, and he was being arrested
Hmm.
by an unmarked SUV. A couple of military-looking guys came out, and the way they walked was so bizarre that this guy was doing like a full-on military frogman walk.
Hmm.
You know, it was really strange, and they were wearing urban camo colors.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, very strange.
All right, but guys, let us know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Obviously, as for this, look, Victoria's the only one that's signed on to Belt and Road. But the strong cities, apparently all the states and territories have done it, which is probably why we're seeing it in New South Wales as well. But yeah, obviously this is the real reason why they're so heavy-handed in Melbourne, and then especially at the moment. We've also seen it in New South Wales as well. So that is kind of why it's all happening. It's this strong cities initiative, Belt and Road initiative, and it all has to do with China. At the end of the day, it's China who's pushing these initiatives, and yeah, hopefully that answers some questions as to why this is happening, as to what we can do about it. Protest the embassies, peaceful protest the embassies, guys. Peaceful protest always, because as soon as you get violent or they catch you being violent, that's when you start to lose the support of the public.
That's right.
Apart from that, anything else?
Yeah, there's something I need to look into a little closer, and we could probably do another video on that one.
Sure.
Where apparently Australia has been taken by some corporation, like they've taken ownership of Australia,
Yeah.
as part of some kind of, the whole thing of mashing up corporate and government into one thing. Yeah, I need to look into that. It's quite concerning.
I might look into that as well, actually.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Apart from that, obviously leave a comment in the section below. Obviously, Satellite, thank you for coming on and talking about the Belt and Road Initiative.
Yeah.
You've
I'm probably turning into like I'm the guy you come for the conspiracy.
Well, I was going to say, did you know you've got an open invite? You can be on the show anytime you want.
Yeah, I know. It has been quite a hectic time, and that's why I've basically not been around. I mean, I think Nonpartisan can confirm that he's barely spoken to me in almost 2 years.
Yeah, it's passing ships, mostly passing ships at Discord.
Yeah.
like I'll say something, and then like 3 hours later he'll reply, and then like 3 hours after that I'll reply.
Yeah.
So it's.
I'm hoping to be around a fair bit more now. Yeah, but I mean, how much more time do we really have for everything is up in the air. If October 15 has any kind of relevance, oh boy, we could be in for it very soon.
I get worried about talking about that sort of stuff because, not that I'm not going to, but because the fact that so many people have tried to use dates and stuff like that before.
Yes, I agree. Dates tend to come and go and nothing actually happens. Yeah.
Like Y2K, and then it was the whole global, the whole, we're all going to run out of food, sort of thing that never happened, and.
Well, it has happened in some third world countries. There's quite a lot of starvation going on lately.
Yeah, but they breed like rabbits, so.
Well, that's not why though, because they were getting their.
No, I was going to suggest there's a new food source for you.
Oh God! Hey, come on, they want us to eat bugs, not people.
All right, guys, let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. So thanks for coming in once again, and guys, you'll be hearing from him a little bit more regularly, hopefully. We got a couple other topics that we need to talk about, including.
Yeah, I just got to get him to do the shows a little bit later, though.
Yes, we're going to talk about black-eyed babies one day.
Oh my God, you're gonna? Yeah, okay, we'll do that one.
Yeah, we got to talk about that.
Yeah, it's not nothing to do with the color of people. It's the eyes that the white part is missing on these children, and it's quite bizarre.
Yes. But anyway, guys, apart from that, have a great night, enjoy yourself, smack a like, leave a comment, let us know what your thoughts and comments are in the comment section below. And obviously, I'll still do the normal videos for today. So it's going to be 3 videos. Second video is actually me on the radio talking about Facebook and what happened there. And then the third video will be some news source for the day. So enjoy the content. And apart from that, guys, I'll see you in the next Demonetized video. And say bye, Satellite.
Yeah. See you, everyone, and stay away from 5G nanobots.
Oh, God. Have a great night and enjoy.